Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Nice to see you. My name's Dustin Cormier. Welcome to another episode of How to Rock Astrology. Very excited to be chatting with you and hanging with you folks today. Today we're going to be continuing our series talking about the nature of the moon in Sagittarius. This happens to be my own natal moon sign. Rock and roll. So I've been enjoying talking with you guys throughout this series. I am a Tropical Vedic astrologer. I abide by Western measurements, but I've been really steeped in the Vedic tradition, and I'm bringing a Vedic astrology idea of what it means, of what these symbols mean. In particular, of course, we're talking today about Sagittarius Moon with Venus in the sign of Cancer. And there is this, I've got to tell you, this is the most difficult placement of Venus for a Sagittarius moon, possibly outside of Venus actually being conjunct the moon in Sagittarius. There is, in Vedic astrology, we put a big emphasis on the relationships between the planets. It's friendships and enemies. Now, Venus is it's neutral to the moon. And Venus is probably giving a little bit of an aspect to the moon here, which kind of helps the moon, because Venus is a benefic, just like it is in Western astrology. It does give good things kind of no matter what. But Venus is kind of neutral as a friend or enemy to the moon. It's neutral. But the moon is an enemy of Venus. And this has been a big part of what I've been trying to display in this whole series, is that the moon in this angle is starving Venus. As we can see here, coming down from the opposition aspect, Venus is still in an area where it is getting hit by the moon pretty dramatically, pretty much no matter what. 180 so this is aspects that the Sun, Moon, Mercury, and Venus give, according to the ancient sage Parashara, and this is kind of what Vedic astrology is based on. The opposition, the conjunction is the fullest aspect, but the opposition is also a complete opposition is a full aspect. Now, 210 degrees is the 8th house, and that's pretty much a 3/4 of an aspect, which is pretty much it's might as well be full, in my reckoning. Now, it can, by angle and by degrees, it can be less of this. You know, if the moon is in like 0 degrees of Sagittarius and Venus is at 29 degrees of Cancer, that'd be a good thing, because Venus would be exalted in Pisces in the sign of Navamsha. And for our sake, that Venus would be less of that full opposition aspect. But no matter what, this is still pretty much in the realm of being a heavy placement for Venus, because the moon is starving Venus. The moon has a narcissistic energy that, the moon is the things that we enjoy, and we all have to enjoy things, and we use our enjoyment to help us adapt and do the things that we need to do in our lives. So the moon's enjoyment of what it enjoys is going to starve Venus's ability to share equally in relationship and to do what Venus really wants to do. This is a precarious situation, because, as we're going to talk about, the moon is already is precarious, and it lacks Svadhisthana chakra energy, the second chakra, the water chakra, because it's so close to Scorpio, and for other reasons we're going to kind of talk about. The moon has difficulty being in relationship, really. The moon in Sagittarius, it can have trouble being in relationship because it's so individualized. It kind of does its own thing first and says, okay, now that I've done my thing, what can we do? Which means the partner is always at the whim of the independence of Sagittarius moon. In this combination in particular, it's really tough, because Venus is in an angle to the moon, but no matter what angle Venus is from the moon, which causes starvation because the moon is aspecting Venus, Venus is in the sign of the moon, which means it's in the sign of an enemy, which means it's getting further, it's going to be a complete starvation no matter what. And to top it all off, one of the dangerous and difficult parts of this combination is that Venus is in the 8th house from the moon. In Vedic astrology, this is not considered to be a good thing. It's not the same thing as being in the 8th sign from the rising sign, in the actual 8th house. But there is a signification of intensity, and this intensity is always going to go bad with this combination. The intensity is something that is ultimately not good. It's going to always cause you to feel unsatisfied and thirsty, particularly when Venus is starved by an enemy by being in a water sign. When any planet is starved by an enemy in a water sign, it's considered thirsty, which would typically mean it can still do what it needs to do, but it never feels like it gets enough of the experience of what Venus is supposed to do, which is to share sentimentally in an enjoyable, easy soul bonding where we've bonded with someone and we want to give them our nature and for them to give us their nature in a loving, compassionate way where we're not trying. Just by being in the same room, just by doing what you love to do, your partner is gratified. And just by your partner doing what they do, you are gratified. And that's the magic of the Svadhisthana chakra, the water chakra, where 1 + 1 = 3. It's the magic of the tantra of energies coming together. This Venus is not just thirsted, but it is fully starved by the moon because there's the aspect as well as being in that sign. Because it's the 8th house, there's always going to be a need for you to draw back your desire for the intense soul bonding experiences and richly emotionally fulfilling experiences that you expect and anticipate from life and from a partner. You might even get with partners who you think will satisfy and cater to this deep, impossible depth of intense emotional gratification that you seek. You'll grab someone who you think is sexy and mysterious and is emotional and sentimental, and they will be frustrated at how much you unconsciously anticipate from the relationship. Because the 8th house, Venus is, the 8th house is an unstable position from any planet. And it's kind of overly intense, even overly sexualized. But the sexuality for all of us is really just a bridge for soul connection. Here, with Venus with the moon in Sagittarius, there's a narcissistic desire, really, at some level, to enjoy the gratification of the senses so that you can get that out of the way and go and build on your ambitions that you also intensely apply in your career and your ambitions and in your life. You almost want it to be that you have an intense sexual soul bonding experience with your partner at home so you can also convey that juicy energy to the people that you work with. And this bit gives an expansiveness to the Sagittarius moon. Usually, really, Venus is supposed to help charge the erotic psyche so that Sagittarius moon can go and do what it wants to do and to attract, knowing that I got something at home that's real. It's a real connection. Sagittarius moon is often like a politician, but you can tell a politician with Sag moon who's just kind of being a robot for their agenda when they're stressed about it and they really want to make things happen, but they have no chill because they don't have a lover at home who makes them feel like they don't have to work that hard at things because they have the magic of the water chakra that allows them to work smarter, not harder, and they actually attract if they can develop a real good relationship. In this combination, you'll always, you can't lean on your ability to be erotically psychological, to have a strong psychological foundation all the time. It's hard for a politician to have this aspect because you'll always be thirsty for a genuine, deep bonding that is really just a matter of your own compulsion. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the nature of this compulsion. It starts off with the fact of Sagittarius moon. I recommend you check out my Sagittarius moon video. I released it recently. It's about an hour long, and it kind of goes through the nature of Sagittarius moon from me, who's also a Sagittarius moon. check that out to see the guts of the problem with Sagittarius Moon in itself. Now, essentially, in essence, the moon is supposed to be, it's supposed to share its watery, its earthly experiences of the energy network of people and loved ones around it, where it gives of its energy and enjoys doing it so that others also enjoy giving it to you. This is what the moon is supposed to do. There's supposed to be a natural enjoyment there. The moon and the sun are the two essential opposites of the energy field. The sun is what we do during the day from 9 to 5. The moon is supposed to be who we are, who we attract around us when we come home and we decide to regenerate ourselves. Because the water of the Svadhisthana chakra is essentially supposed to be something that gives us thirst, that gives us respite from doing what our sun feels it needs to do in order to survive in this world. So we all got to survive somehow. And really, 2 heads are better than 1. Many hands make light work. Living with someone helps to pay the rent in an easier way. And so the people we live with help to give us the resources as well as the erotic and psychosexual resources that we need to feel good conquesting the world through our sun sign, whatever our sun sign might be. Usually, the sun does the sun thing and the moon does the moon thing by grounding ourselves with people around us. The problem with Sagittarius Moon is kind of it's really mostly threefold. The big one is that it's in right next door in close proximity to its debilitation point in Scorpio, which means it's essentially, whereas the moon in Taurus shares its needs with the world around it unconsciously, knowing that others also need to be needed, and it makes a 1 + 1 = 3. With the moon in Sagittarius, its instinct from childhood is to not need others. I don't need others. I don't need anyone's help. I can do it myself. I can energize myself through my favorite things that I love and enjoy doing. And with this combination, there's a deep desire, because Venus, your own Venus, is going to make you deeply want to enjoy whatever you enjoy doing by yourself as well as with partners. But enjoyment has an 8th house over intensity that's just basically unhealthy with this combination. You got to reduce your expectations of the pleasures that you seek to have in life, reduce your compulsive mind's mental conditionings and tendencies from childhood to expect things to be a certain way. You have a big, deep desire for things to be soulful and meaningful to your soul all the time. And you want these deep experiences to channel and fuel essentially what you want to do for your partners, which with Venus in Cancer, it might add up to being like a protector and to being a provider and to be a person who gives emotional solace to your partners. The problem is that because of the nature of your intensity, you can't, you have to learn to discipline yourself to negate your mental compulsions. So when your partner comes to you with difficulties, you can sit with them and not draw out more intensity from an emotional situation that they're having. Usually, when one person in a relationship is a little bit emotional and unstable, the other person holds it down, provides the space for that person to let their emotions go while still being critical, sentimental, caring, and loving, and holding the space for that. For you probably get your own emotional compulsiveness exacerbated when someone comes to you with their own emotional intensity, especially in a negative way, because that's not what you expected, because you internally expect that everything is going to be good and delicious and positive. Now, this doesn't mean that you can't be someone who can't do this. Remember, we're just talking about the signs here. Moon in its sign and Venus in its signs. There's so much more going on with these two planets that can allow you to, you'll still always feel thirsty. You'll still always feel like there's more that you want, that you're unsatisfied. But If the moon, there's many things with the moon. If the moon is closer to full, it's almost like having an exalted Taurus. When it's waxing, it's happier as well. If it's got aspects from its friends, the sun or Mercury, the sun will cause you to have an understanding of the dharmic need to be supported on your journey towards the sun. That's the sun aspecting the moon. The sun is a friend to the moon. So the sun can make you be disciplined enough to sit and listen to your partner's needs and actually help them get through it. So there are many things that can help the moon do what it needs to do and get through this sort of thing. But by sign, there is a frustration here where an intensity that you often experience is difficult to hold and support a partner who's having an unstable moment themselves. And it ultimately begins to feel like the emotional healing that is possible between the two of you and necessary in any relationship goes by your whim, goes by your preferred way of doing things. Maybe your partner can support you in your unstable moments, and you have lots of them. This is the problem with this particular 8th house Venus in the 8th house from the moon. And what I have to say is that Sagittarius itself, Sagittarius Moon, is close to its debilitation, and it's in the sign of a masculine planet, Jupiter, which caters to the sun, what you do, your ambitions. You are probably put a lot of energy into doing what you do in the world in order that you can be proud that you brought home the bacon or some kind of thing for your family or for your loved one, because what's good for you is good for your lover. And this is how you think. I'm going to do things that'll make us both proud. That is how Sag Moon is geared and wired, and it's part of who you are. Ultimately, it is not that conducive to the water chakra, the Svadhisthana chakra. Now, when you lack the moon in the Svadhisthana chakra, because you're not used to thinking about actually sentimentally enjoying experiences with other people, especially light experiences like going on a date. You know, like you don't think about these things. You think about the deep moment where you're having sex beside the fire and you're in this rapturous, glorious moment. And you're like, okay, I got to make something up to go on a date with someone so I can have this delicious soul-binding experience with this person. Meanwhile, the other person, most people are just kind of like, that soul bliss is just kind of like a blip, a peak. And it's supposed to be a peak, and it's not supposed to be all the things all the time. I have this metaphor here as like, I'm a bass player. I try not to use a pick, because a pick goes pluck, 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 and the peaks are high, but there's not much smooth middle tone. I use my fingers so that it's always this warm, constant thing. It's kind of my metaphor for what's going on here. Some people like to use a pick, and it's whatever. And the point here is that for most people, that soul bliss melting moment into each other is something that is well-deserved from a functional, practical relationship that is built up in a deserving way, this soul bonding experience. Your excitement to get there cheapens it. Really consider this when I talk about it, okay? Now, first thing I should say before I go on, because I got a little thing that I wrote out for this combination. Sagittarius Moon thinks so much about its ambitions, about what it can contribute to the relationship, as opposed to like what it is in the relationship, how it can support the partner, how it can do fun things with the partner together. Sag Moon doesn't do that, and that reduces its ability to enjoy the water of, I did this thing for you, and now you're doing this thing for me. We went out on a date, and we went to the movies, and you let me pick the movie. Now I'm going to let you pick the movie, and you thought about a good date idea. Now I'm going to think about a cool one for us to do. Like, you don't typically think about these things. You just think about how you can use the energy to get you more money, more expansion, so you can bring the family or the relationship to fun, enjoyable places, instead of actually just being okay with not having to do anything. This is the problem with Sag Moon, is this ambition thing. A true bonding is when you can be with the person, not have to say anything, for it not to be intense, and for that to be okay, for that to be how it should be. Now, you're somebody who enjoys these intense experiences, which means you got to meditate, reduce your compulsion and your compulsive desire to have intense experiences, and then be cautious about ultimately still getting them, because that is something that you do desire. We have to cater to that because it's part of who you are. Now, since Sagittarius Moon is so individuated, so much on this desirous thing, you have to consider it this way, okay? In this particular idea of the Vedic constitution of the chakras, in this system that I'm using, this comes from Ernst Wilhelm's idea of the Panchatattvas. The first chakra is lorded by Mercury. It's our management of the earthy things that we need that keep us alive and keep us thriving. The second chakra is ruled by Venus, or the moon and Venus, essentially. Now, the moon in Sagittarius, as we know, it's close to debilitation. It's in the sign of a masculine planet, Jupiter, and as well, it's in the masculine side of the masculine planet. Pisces isn't as bad, and it's closer to exaltation. The moon being in Pisces is closer to Taurus, where it's exalted. In Sagittarius, it's right next to Scorpio. It's in a masculine planet sign, and it's in the masculine sign of a masculine planet. So all this masculinity adds up to what the sun is, which is what I do as opposed to what I am, right? Now, because the moon is weak here, it uses the water it gets and funnels it into its ambitions and pride and career. It's what it is. I'm Sagittarius Moon. I put all my energy into these YouTube videos, and I tell my girlfriend, honey, I'm going to do my best to hang out as much as we can, but tonight I'm going to spend a huge chunk of time doing these videos, and then I'll be done at 9 o'clock, and we'll go to bed at 10, not really get to enjoy it. We go to work tomorrow, whatever. I've got to organize time with my girlfriend to spend with her so that she doesn't feel like I'm using this enjoyment to have the psychoerotic confidence that you see me displaying on this YouTube video. This is very much the psyche of Sagittarius Moon. Because Sagittarius Moon puts all its energy into what it does, that Svadhisthana chakra energy, that water energy, is sacrificed to the Manipura chakra, the fire chakra, which means that it gets dried up. So you don't have a respite. You don't have actual rest moments where you're actually resting or sharing in support and enjoyment from other people. Since it doesn't come from the moon, that means it's up to Venus to compensate. And as long as you've got a Venus that can do it, you can make the water energy happen. The problem is that you, not only is this moon not in the hottest, not in the coolest place, but Venus is starved by the moon 2 ways, and it's in this intense eighth house energy. It's being thirsted. So even this Venus doesn't feel like it gets what it needs to deeply be able to feel rested and like it's having a satisfying experience of life, and it can get depressed for various reasons. This is kind of me talking about it. Usually for Sagittarius Moon, Venus compensates, but here it can't like it would want to. Now, Venus, so what's this all about? Well, I've written a little thing to kind of get, it's longer than I anticipated, but this is how it is with these videos sometimes. Venus in Cancer wants to have long, soulful connections with a partner. They seek someone who finishes their sentences, who shows up after work with their favorite meal, all these sweet, sentimental things. But they don't put effort into doing this themselves. They forget because of how busy they are with their own contributions to throwing chips and money and energy into the coffers of the relationship in their own way. Soul bonding is one part unconscious aesthetic erotic symmetry, like, you know, when someone likes the same music as you, when someone likes the same food as you, having similar goals, a shared vision of the future, shared biological rhythms of wanting to have sex at the same time, in the same way, etc. It's half unconscious aesthetic erotic symmetry, enjoying each other without trying. But then it's also half meeting the other person in the middle, sacrificing time and devotion to thinking about what they like. And what this means is that you have to actually have security enough in yourself, even though you've never thought about this kind of thing, because you only go right to the peak point of ecstasy and soul fusion, and you fantasize and you love it so much that you don't think about sustaining the building of getting there. So you probably think that you're actually essentially a boring person who feels insecure, who feels like you can't be loved in some ways. It's really just because you don't put enough time and energy into it. You don't reduce the compulsion of your desire to have an intense experience, and you don't practice doing the things that would give you a simple, watery experience without trying, of being easy with a person. Remember, the moon is all about, the moon and Venus, the water chakra, it's all about working smarter, not harder. So, the Sagittarius moon is so busy with how you conduct yourself outside the relationship that the Venus in Cancer does not have time, energy, or patience to fully enjoy the relationship in an intimate way, at least coming from your own devices. The Venus in Cancer becomes thirsty, and it's always unsatisfied. At some level, this is something you ultimately can't run from. But just because you can't run from it doesn't mean you can't remove your attachment to the expectation of getting it. This is where yoga comes in, reducing your compulsions, because ultimately, this is part of your nature. But if you are intelligent enough and use yoga, you can practice listening to the silence of your own mind. Go out beside your Sagittarius moon, go out beside a river and listen to the sound of the white water of the river moving through. Listen, and while you're listening, think about how much you come into a fantasy. Watch yourself going into fantasies and idealizations and say, oh, I got to stop that. Discipline yourself and train yourself to get out of that intensity. And then you will meet the water that will bring you to this intensity. But you have to essentially cut off what you feel is an essential part of your soul. You don't have to throw the baby out with the bathwater. You don't have to throw away your desire to have soul bonding experiences completely. You just got to throw away the parts that ultimately obstruct you from getting it through meditating and being observant and objective about your subjective nature. Now, ultimately, on top of meditating, what's going to happen once you start meditating is that 2 doors are going to open for you. Number 1, you have to actually devote more time to the relationship. This is what we call santosha. It's the second, of the yamas and the niyamas. The first one kind of relates to Mercury, the first chakra, which is Socha and Ahimsa. The second yamas and niyamas relate to the water chakra, Santosha and Satya. Santosha is active honoring of the need for intrinsic emotional intelligence inside yourself. And then Satya is receptively listening to your own emotional intelligence. So devote more time to the relationship. Sacrifice what you think is your need to go and do things outside of the relationship in order to make you feel like you're contributing to the relationship. Cut some of that out and just be in the relationship in a non-intense way. Learn to be a fun, easygoing relationship person in this way. And, not so much that you don't have an interesting life outside your intense involvement with your partner. So you'll have to devote more time in an easygoing way to the relationship, number 1. Number 2, ultimately, no matter what, you have to reduce your compulsive expectations by meditating, by watching your desire nature and letting it go, becoming detached from it. Now, this is the problem with the 8th house nature of this combination. It's the thirst in this person causes them to desire to inject emotional intensity upon the partner in sexual moments. So the 8th house relates to sexuality. Venus is in Cancer, emotional soul bonding, and the 8th house from the moon. 8th house relating to sexuality, kind of relating to Scorpio in that way. So you inject emotions and soul bonding, Cancer, into sexuality, where sexuality ought to be something that is objective. Sometimes it's completely soul and blissing, and when it is, you got to let it happen on its own. But sometimes it's just a winding down, a release, a rapture of the senses from the hard work of the day that doesn't need to be that intense. If you inject intensity to it all the time, a few things happen. Number one is that we start to evade. It gets like, we got to go through this again. That's a terrible thing to have in a relationship. But also, you don't give many of such moments. So, because you yourself don't have easygoing sexual moments, because you go to work and you desire for it to be intense and you feel thirsty for soul bonding experiences, probably feel like working sucks in general, like it's demeaning and is never as rich and emotionally satisfying as you want it to be. So then you come home and you are either completely intense with your sexual experience, or if it's not intense, then you probably don't want to have sex at all. You probably evade and just move into the Sagittarius Moon thing. It's almost like you can only bond with your partner if it's intense. And what happens with you and your partner is that if it's not intense, then you do your own thing and they do their own thing until you both get so horny that one of you either cheats on each other or masturbates or watches pornography and gets it out that way, or the two of you stave off from it until it's like, oh my God, we need to have sex now, and then it's intense, and then that continues it. So all of your sexual moments begin to always feel too sacred, too special. And what happens is that you're kind of crying wolf, if you understand what I mean. The partner feels you're injecting a magical, fantastical specialness into romantic and sexual episodes, even when there's not any there. It becomes diluted and bloated. So whenever the possibility of a truly outstanding soul-merging experience happens, like the two of you do this thing, you're going out with each other, and even you're living together, and let's say one of you has the idea to go to a beach, to have a glass of wine or a bottle of wine, and you go out there and you don't often get the chance to do it. And you go out and it's like 9 p.m. and it's dark and nobody's around and you're both a little tipsy and you want to have this soul-satisfying experience. But it's cheapened because it's always this intense. Whereas anybody else who would have this once in a while special moment would really get to drink it. For you, it's just another intense sexual experience. And the partner can feel used here, especially because you're so, especially with if this is an energy of someone who is, Venus in Cancer can be like protector and a provider. So you go out and put a lot of energy into providing for the family, and you give the family the paycheck and the house and the rent is paid. And so because you don't feel secure in your own ability to just enjoy at a level, you probably seek a partner who accepts this as your love language. At least you guys initially think that this is how it should be, which means you put a lot of effort into that. So when you come home, you are the one who's bringing home the bacon, which means the sexual energy is being completely dominated by your whim. And the partner feels used. They feel like a dish rag. They feel like they're just making you feel better about the fact that you're going and slaving off to a job that you hate in order to protect and provide for the family. It's a heavy energy. And they may also seek their own rhythm of intensity. They might have a rhythm where they would want this intensity, but you unconsciously overpower their soul rhythm by injecting it unnaturally. And essentially, it's because you put so much intensity into your work and ambitions, providing for the family, protecting it, etc. Ultimately, really the only thing you can do with a combination like this is possibly get a therapist to just help you work out why you never understood how to be an easygoing friend, social, easygoing human being while you were younger. Get someone to help you work it out with it. Communicate with your partner and with people outside your partner about this, because you've probably, if you're stuck in this mire, you and your partner have such an intense energy that you probably could even get in fights and arguments, and it always gets intense. So look for the people around you, your family, your best friends, to talk with them about this idea that you want to work out how to be easier going with your partner. And at the top of all of this, meditate. My Sag Moon friend, it's very important, especially that you do what I was talking about. Go out to a river, listen to the birds, listen to some kind of white noise, and discipline yourself to be able to listen to that white noise without some kind of desire or fantasy coming up and taking over. You know, some thought about what you could do at work, some thought even about what you could do with the partner. Leave a bit of room for that, because that's part of what we're doing here. That's Santosha. But even with that, you're going to intensely do it and make this intense plan to do this intense thing. Put the book down. Fight against your compulsion to make everything intense by sitting and just listening to the white noise of the river or of whatever it is that you're listening to. Breathe and accept the easygoingness of it and bring that discipline into your relationship. This one's a long one. It had to be, because of this. There's so much potential ways of talking about this combination. And I'm glad I got it out. Now, before we quit, I'd like to talk about what this combination is like in a more light-hearted, easygoing way. It's Erotic Astrology by Phyllis Vega. It's a Western author. They kind of talk about these sign combinations in a sort of like light-hearted, easygoing way. So, we're going to learn about the lovemaking nature of Moon in Sagittarius and Venus in Cancer. What are you like when you actually do get to bond with your lover in the way that you want? What we read is that you are a loving person who often has a hard time in close relationships, likely for the reasons we've discussed. Part of you just wants to stay in and cuddle by the fireside, while another part of you longs to go out and socialize and expand your career and your ambitions and networking and etc. Your ideal mate knows how to maintain a sense of freedom within an atmosphere of togetherness, because the Sag Moon likes to be able to have the space to do its own thing, to not be needed all the time, and to put in energy towards its ambitions, because like I said, that's your nature. You're like me. You want to do something like this YouTube thing that I'm doing. It's part of who you are. So you do need that freedom, but you also want the warmth of an atmosphere of togetherness. Ultimately, you're warm and sexy in bed, and the intimacy you share with your partner becomes a cozy sanctuary away from the world. And you can be a very warm, ooey-gooey type of lover for someone who ultimately has water and fire signs in their chart and wants to appreciate you for that ooey-gooey, loving, emotional energy. Because ultimately it is who you are. The deliciousness that you apply can be a good thing. It's just like, it's almost like a drug, you know? And you got to be a functional drug user in this way. I wouldn't typically put something like this, but you got to understand. I think it works. Is if you're a functional drug user, you're going to do it in a way that you get that hit, but then you don't let it control your life. You don't let it control your relationship. In the same way, you get that peak experience of that juicy, ooey-gooey, lovey, emotional sentiment, and don't let it eclipse everything else that should be happening in a functional, grounded, stable relationship. Hope you guys enjoyed that. That was a long one, as I expected it to be. I'm Dustin Cormier, and this is How to Rock Astrology. Thanks so much for watching with me, folks. Let me know in the comments if I got it right, if I was accurate. This one was loaded, so let me know what you thought of it. And send me comments, whatever, and keep your eyes peeled, because I always got more stuff coming out. Thanks so much for watching.